and good morning. Welcome back to Brunch, and thank you for tuning in with us today on Book Club Corner. I am Jewel Green, and welcome all the viewers in Trinidad and Tobago and across the Caribbean. We want to thank you for being here with us. Every Wednesday, we are on Tobago Updates, where we speak to authors and writers about their books, their passions for writing, and their love of the written word. And today we have with us an author, a published author, and an African cultural activist, Mr. Rodney Piggott. And before we, introduce him fully, I would like to tell you about Mr. Piggott. He is, just a long list of accolades. Mr. Piggott, he migrated to the U.S. for over 44 years, but he's back with us now, and he was the chair of the African, I think it's the African Coalition.
Community Centers.
Right, the African Community Center for Unity
and Self-Determination.
Right, and he was also the PRO of the International Coalition for Blacks for National Coalition. Listen, the list is so long, I can't even remember all of it.
Reparations?
Yes, for reparations. Wonderful. And upon his return to Trinidad and Tobago, he returned specifically to Tobago, where he became the president of the Tobago Writers Guild, and then he launched the lecture series, the first mic, the next chapter, and after that, he went on to co-found the Tobago Civil Net, and he is currently the advisor for the Tobago Council of Elders.
Right, and the chair of the Civil Net.
And chair of Civil Net. And we have him here with us today. He's going to be chatting with us about his book, and he has many books. He has over 4 books that he's written. And the book that we're going to be discussing today is called Damn That Habit, right? And this book is really talking about smoking, about habits, looking at how they're formed and how we deal with breaking those habits. And we're going to get into that today. But before we do that, I want us to get into this wine. When we have brunch on Book Club Corner, we always have some wine. And this wine is Bella Former from Main Ridge Wines. We want to thank Main Ridge Wines, Stacey Herbert, for giving us this wine. And we have a wine to give away. We hope that you will take the opportunity to get one of these wines and to get some of the books. And I just want to cheers with Mr. Piggott today. Thank you very much, Stacey. And we support local here at Book Club Corner. Oh, this is nice.
Excellent bouquet.
This is nice.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So we want to get into the book. In the book that you've written, because you've written 4 books.
Yes.
And 3 of them are about spoken word poetry.
That's
and
correct.
You're a poet and an artist yourself. Yeah, and we want to get into the book because what we really want to talk about, as you've, written this book as a person who is heavily into the African culture, we see heritage happenings, from next week. And as a matter of fact, on Friday, Heritage is going to be having the Tobago Personality Show and Miss Personality Show, and they're going to be featuring recycled wear on Friday. But we want to talk to you about your perspective in terms of the African culture and African heritage. Did it color your writings as an artist, as a spoken word artist? And tell us about that.
Yes, it certainly did. It certainly did. And Jude, again, of course, thanks for having me on your show this morning. All of those things you mentioned about me, they're all volunteer work. That is one thing I want the people to understand, is that I'm a consummate volunteer. I believe that a lot of things can get done if people simply volunteer their time to do it. And so I've been volunteering for a very, very long time, especially in the African culture and so forth. And yes, that has a great bearing on what I write, how I write. It informs me. As Dr. Edwin Nichols talks about our axiology and the axiology of a people. Every people have their own axiology, their core beginning, how they began, how they inculcated into the earth, so to speak. And so that African axiology is in all of us. As Peter Tosh would say, you're not African because you're born in Africa. You're African because Africa is born in you. And no matter where you are, you're an African.
I like that.
So that's in our cells, in our very, very cells. So once one becomes involved in work that centers around their culture, then the cellular memory is going to surface.
Okay.
Right?
I like that you pointed that out, because we're going to get into that in terms of habits and looking at the dichotomy between a habit versus an addiction, right? And your perspective on that. But let me just get into the book. Because when I started to read the book, I got into the beginnings of this book, and there's this long list. I mean, there's your story, of course, and we want to get into that, but there's this long list. What struck me was this long. We're not trying to scare anybody. We're just giving information here. There was a long list of chemicals in cigarettes, and I was just blown away. So I'm just going to read some of this. This is page 18, and he's talking about that there's 7,000 toxic chemicals in cigarettes. And he got this from, World ED, right? And we're looking at like carbon monoxide, tar, arsenic, ammonia. I mean, this cleaning products, rat poison, tar, they used to make the roads. And, on my way here, I saw them doing some work by works. They were doing some road work. So they were using some of this very tar. Cyanide, acetone. Our nail techs out there know what we're talking about when we talk about acetone, butane, DDT, which is an insecticide, formaldehyde. So we just, when we look at cigarette smoking, sometimes it's a leisure activity for some persons. But, even in that leisure activity, you're looking at some very detrimental things. Tell us about that.
And yes, I know you said to the audience that you don't want to scare them. In my book, I want to scare you.
You want to scare you guys.
I want, when you read that, I want you to just like, wow, is this what I'm really putting in my body?
Yeah.
And so the book is really designed to give the cigarette smoker information about what it is that they're actually putting in their body. Because you see, when tobacco usage originally, before the commercial stage, it was natural tobacco that you're growing in your backyard or wherever it's growing from, and you're picking the leaf, and you maybe match it up the way same way they do marijuana, and you're putting that in some rolling paper. You're rolling that up, and you're lighting that, and you have to keep lighting it, just as you do a cigar.
Yes.
But that was natural tobacco they were smoking, and so when commercial. When the West came in, and I think it began with sailors and people coming into these native areas where tobacco was being used, and they saw this thing and like, wow, we could make some money on this, and that's how it became commercialized. And of course, once it became commercialized, then it's now we have to grow it faster. We can't wait all year for this crop to grow. There's money to be made.
So let me ask, is tobacco, is it part of a plant that is indigenous or grows in Africa? If you know about that, could you tell us?
It grows in Africa. It grows in South America, places like Brazil, Peru, places like that. It's very, very, very prominent there. But it's not something that grew in Europe.
Right.
So they came and they encountered it in their travels.
It doesn't like the cold.
I think it began with, right. I think it began with sailors actually that encountered it in their travels. And that's pretty much how it took off from there.
Okay. Well, it's an interesting history lesson about tobacco and how it came to become so popularized for us as a community, as a society. What I want to ask, I'm curious about self-published authors who do their own work, their cover, they do all the editing and stuff. What difficulties, if any, did you experience as you were publishing your book?
The very first time I published a book was actually a version of this book that I published for the very, very first time. And that one was very costly because I went the vanity publishing route. Ex Libris, I believe, what was the name of the company. And they made it seem like, okay, you sign on with us, and it's like, you're going to be a published author and all of these sort of things, but it was a very expensive venture because it was considered like, sort of like a vanity publishing in itself, where I didn't do any of the work really.
Right.
I just sent the manuscript to them, and they did everything, and everything costed, And so, and they also captured the ISBN. From where I got the ISBN from, I made a mistake, and instead of purchasing it myself from, I forgot the name of where it actually comes from. I went through a reseller, and to get a discount because it costs this much over here, but over here it's costing like 50% less, and you're getting this much for it. And I didn't know anything about that. But when I purchased from the reseller actually became the publisher of my book. I was the author. I retained author's right, but the reseller, since it was their ISBN.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, they actually captured it.
Yeah, so authors, we're hearing some very valuable information here today. I want you to pay attention to what's happening. I want you to pay attention to when you publish a book, those who are going the self-publishing route, please remember to do your homework. Or you can alternatively call the Tobago Writers Guild Publishing House. We have ISBN numbers. We will not take the rights away from your book. But this is important information for authors to be aware of and to be careful of, to be mindful of when you get into that self-publishing space. Yeah? But before we go any further, I want you to tell me about your story. Most writers and authors write from a place of personal, if not personal pain, personal experience. And I want you to just tell, our viewers about why you wrote this book. I mean, Damn This Habit. And we want to get into the title as well because, when I first saw it, I said, like, they cut off the cover. It missing a letter. But then I was like, that sounds like a play on words. Damn that habit. Like a dam.
Exactly, like a dam.
Yeah, so tell us about your story, where your motivation for writing, as well as this title.
Well, it was really to help others because I myself smoked cigarettes at one point. And I began smoking cigarettes the way most people that smoke cigarettes begin smoking cigarettes as a youth. And you begin smoking this toxic object that, if you remember and remind yourself and go back to your beginning, you couldn't see yourself doing it because you would smell the smoke and it smelled awful. You would choke on it. You smelled the breath of other people who smoke cigarettes and it smelled awful. So you really never saw yourself doing that. So for you to now say, let me try this, something had to sort of influence you and push your will in that direction. And for young people, the heaviest thing that influences them to begin smoking cigarette is peer pressure. The group that they're with, the peer group that they're with, they're smoking cigarettes.
Is there a legal age for smoking, for buying cigarettes, smoking?
Well, there's a legal age for buying cigarettes. I believe it's 18 or 21, one of those ages.
That's for buying. But if they were to, we don't want to get into the legalities of it, but just, just curious, if you were to smoke, would you get in trouble for that? You
would. I mean, I don't know that you would get into like a legal trouble, like you get taken away to jail or anything of that nature.
Yes.
But it would be the same as if someone saw you drinking alcohol and
Yes.
you were noticeably underage.
Yes,
then
I
it'd be
just
like,
I made
no.
sure I wanted to bring that up because I want you all to know when we are talking about brunch and having a nice, adult drink. Remember, we are not talking to our underage population, right? Children out there, kids out there. If you see us having, just remember, tell your parents that you heard about something they may be interested in. It's called Bella Forma. It's a wine from Mainridge Wines. And it's a local wine, but it's not for you. Okay, this is an adult drink,
It's
right?
an adult drink,
Adult choices happening here.
Yeah. So back to the story, of course. So that's where my story began, right? Smoking at that age and so forth. And of course, when the first cigarette I smoked, I mean, I just literally choked, almost passed out. I literally almost fainted. My head just felt light. You feel the cold chills going through your veins. I didn't know what that was. So I experienced all of those bad effects. It's not like drinking where you drink for the very first time and though it may burn your throat, you're left with a nice little head. You feel a little like, whoa, I want to do that again. That feels good,
Smoking was the opposite.
Right. Totally opposite.
Yeah.
So there was no influence from the cigarettes itself to say, I want to try you again. Right. So the same influence that I didn't want to try you in the first place because I thought you were awful, but because the people I'm hanging around is doing it, I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
Right. And then I'm going to try it again because of the people I'm hanging around. I'm looking at them smoking and they're like pulling and inhaling and blowing out like whoa. I'm like, how are you doing that?
So let's jump ahead. You smoked. You're now comfortable with it. You're buying your own cigarettes. You're happy and you're enjoying your smoking experience. And you're now wondering, how am I getting off of this boat?
Right.
I jumped on this train. I want to get off. I don't want to smoke anymore.
Right.
Tell me about how you came to that, to that part in your life, that juncture in your life, and what made you decide to stop, 1 and 2. Let's get into what you have here about the habits, breaking that habit, damning that habit.
Absolutely. And to be real, many people that smoke cigarettes want to stop smoking cigarettes, right? Many people, right? And there's a part of my book there where I point out that they have that statistics, that so many people, they really want to get rid of this cigarette smoking habit, but their will is weak. And I tried. Me and my comrades, we tried. We would do it together. Okay, this is it. New Year's Eve. We make our resolution. That's it. I think the longest we went was like a good 8 months. No cigarettes for 8 months. And then boom, all of a sudden, we're back at it, right? And then, of course, I stumbled upon this method because I really wanted to get rid of this thing, right? Something about having my will co-opted. Like, I really don't want to do you, but I feel like I have to do you. That made me feel a little weak. And so I wanted to get rid of it because I didn't want to feel as if I had to do something that I really didn't want to do. And I tried getting rid of you. I can't get rid of you. It cannot be that I cannot get rid of you. You understand? So I think with that kind of querying, I stumbled upon the method now, a psychological method of literally reversing the habit, because I recognized that quitting was very easy. You quit every time you go to bed. You quit. I don't care how many cigarettes you smoke during the day. And I met many people chain smoke throughout the day. Every 30 minutes, they light up. People that buy cigarettes buy 2 cartons.
I want you to give us one of the psychological steps, one of the steps, because we're out of time soon. Give the viewing public one step, because let me just tell you, get this book. If you or a loved one is a smoker, if you're a smoker and you need to get rid of that habit, damn that habit, get this book by Rodney Piggott. Your friends, your family, if you are affected by secondhand smoke and you don't want to be affected by it anymore, well, we know we have laws to deal with public smoking, but get this book. It's by Rodney Piggott. You can get it on Amazon. Call him directly to get it. And his number is on the Book Club Corner page. But give us one.
Very good. All right. So smoking the cigarette is the major habit. Mm-hmm. But in order to smoke the cigarette, you have to have the cigarette.
Right.
So you have the cigarette by two ways, buying it or bumming it. The most major way that people get their cigarettes, if they're really smoking cigarettes, is by buying it. So the first habit, minor habit I go after, situation habit I go after, is actually buying the cigarettes. So I show you in the book how to go about. You buy the cigarettes, you take out a ration, you put yourself on a ration, there's steps in there, but you take out a ration that you've given yourself. This is how many cigarettes I am going to smoke throughout the day. If I normally smoke 10 cigarettes a day, I'm not going to make my ration maybe 6 or 7 a day. I'm going to take out those 6 or 7 cigarettes as my ration, and I'm literally going to take the rest of the cigarettes and mash them up, flush them, make them irretrievable. So what you're doing to your mind, what you're presenting to your mind now, is the literal form of you're wasting your money when you buy cigarettes. So your money is going up in smoke when you buy cigarettes. So now you're literally confronting your mind with that absolute reality that whenever I buy a pack of cigarette, I'm going to literally throw my money away and flush my money away. Yeah. And you do that for as long as it takes for your mind to come to that junction and go, look, we're not rich. You know what I'm saying? We can't keep spending money like this. So, and your mind always wants you to be comfortable. That's one of the duties of your mind, for you to be comfortable. So I am going to, in order for you to stop wasting your money, I am now going to, as your mind, withdraw the urge for you to buy the cigarettes.
Okay.
And that's where the dam comes in.
I really like this, and I'm telling you guys, if you have a habit you need to get rid of, I think this is one of those things that you can apply to different habits in your life, right? We can look at using it. But we want to wrap up this morning, Book Club Corner. Today, July 12th, it's Caribbean Literature Day, and we want to make sure that we support local authors. We give them the opportunity to read their material, to hear their voice, see what they're interested in and what they're saying to us. So I want you to go celebrate Caribbean Literature Day by reading, going to your library, borrowing a local book from the library from a Caribbean writer, and make sure you get this book, Damn That Habit. It's by Rodney Piggott, and Mr. Rodney Piggott is also a spoken word artist. He was at the forefront of the 1990s poetry renaissance in America, and he wrote 3 other spoken word books. Get those books. They're on Amazon. One of them is called Endangered Speeches, The Next Test Man.
Next Test of Men.
Next Test of Men. They're good. If you just Google him, he's Googleable, as they say. Look up Rodney Piggott and get his books. We want to thank you for viewing. We want to thank you for tuning in with us today. And we want to thank Stacy, Mainridge Wines, for giving us Bella Forma today as we brunch. Cheers to you. Take care of yourself, and let's celebrate Caribbean Literature Day. Support your local authors. Cheers to you.
Cheers, Joe.
The best place to stay